things that I fear are worse in my imagination than,
100%.
than in reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the anticipation of the thing and the stories that I tell myself are 100 times worse than anything that I've really experienced when I just take action. So,
yeah, I mean, I was at Mark Twain. It's like, I've known many, many troubles in my life. Most of them never happened,
Yeah.
I just recognizing we often suffer way more in our imagination than we ever do in reality because our brains catastrophize all these worst case scenarios. You probably read the story in my book where my very first book was coming out, and I went to this tiny school. I was the only kid in my grade the whole way through school. I'd never studied literature, and I was always so present to my inadequacies as a writer, but I feel really convicted to write about what I write about, but I've never thought, oh yes, my greatest gift is being a writer. And I remember in the lead up to my first book coming out, waking up, and in my mind's eye was so vivid. It was me, it was a photo of me on the front page of the New York Times. It was the whole front page, it was just my photo. It looked like a mugshot. It wasn't even a good photo. And it just said world's worst author. Which, let's face it, if I wrote the world's worst book, the New York Times was never going to give me that front page billing. But such is our imagination, right? We come up with these, it'll all go to hell and, I'll be the laughing stock of my whole family and I'll live on the streets. And, most of the time we're going to intervene before it ever gets to that. So just recognizing, yeah, that's true. But I think it's so important to just step back at times and ask ourselves, is this true? And what is it I really need to be afraid of here? What is it I really need to be afraid of? Because our ability to imagine how we'll feel 1 hour from now and 1 day from now, we have this temporal bias, trumps our ability to imagine how we'll feel 1 year from now. So when I think about, I need to have a difficult conversation with Arielle about how she's, been not respecting my time properly. I'm like, she's going to get really upset. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I won't say anything. And so instead, it just sits there and festers. I get a little more resentful. And then, a month from now or something, I explode. And what we're just really lousy at doing is recognizing the price we pay when we don't take the brave action, when we don't do what we know we need to do. Because things fester. What's not working now doesn't get better. It just gets worse. And we often just discount the future and we go, hopefully it'll sort itself out. No, delay grows increasingly expensive. If you're not acting on something and you need to do it, it's very unlikely to just get better. It's going to just get worse. And so, cold water doesn't get warmer if you jump later. Just do it, because actually you're going to have a lot less stress in your life. Even though it might be stressful in the moment, it's often when people talk about, there's some great research, when people talk about having difficult conversations, they imagine how stressful it's going to be. Most of the time people say afterwards, actually it wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, it actually went pretty well. And when people put it off, cumulatively suffer way more stress by putting it off. So just recognizing our brain's tricking us all the time to not do the things that we really need to do. That's part of the human condition too, and it's what gets in the way of us living into that potential. And all of us have that. And something you said earlier, so I had bulimia from age 13 through to 26, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I mean, a lot of people have suffered from eating disorders. I'm guessing some people listening to this now may be suffering from some form of disordered eating, and particularly we women. And I know that for me that came about because I just wished I was skinny and I wasn't. And, let's just face it, it's hard to have a really healthy relationship with our bodies in a world that's constantly telling us what your body should look like. But I look back on the journey for me to come out the other side of that, to have healing and be broken from that really toxic cycle, that pattern of thinking and feeling and acting behavior, that binge purge cycle I was really a captive to. And I'm so deeply grateful because it took me on a journey of deep inner exploration that led me onto the path that I'm on today. I don't know, maybe I'd have just stuck in the superficial job I was in, but I just remember as I came out of that, and then I had a couple of pretty traumatic events in my later 20s. And those events ultimately were the catalyst for my highest growth. And for me going, I'm changing paths. I don't want to stay doing the work that I'm doing. I was in corporate marketing. I want to change. I went back, studied psychology and then coaching, and I'm on this path that I'm on now. But because of those really difficult experiences that were really quite painful. And so for those who are listening and they're thinking, I'm going through this difficult thing, just know that it actually holds the seed for your greatest growth and for you to grow into a person that you could never become otherwise.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well so much with the eating disorder and also with the addiction and the alcoholism and all of that. And I think that that's so helpful for people to hear because it's so hard, nearly impossible to have that perspective when you're in it. It's easier to see in hindsight, but when you're stuck in it and going through it, it feels like it just doesn't make sense.
You conflate that addiction, for me, that disordered eating, with who I was. I had such deep shame. If people really knew me, they wouldn't like me. People don't know because I was pretty high functioning, so no one knew. So there was so much shame attached to it. That's why I am so passionate about openly sharing my journeys and my heartaches and hardships and all these things, because it helps to destigmatize them. It's like, you are not your addiction. You are not the patterns of behavior that keep you trapped in cycles. You are not your failures. You are not your faults. You are not all the mistakes you've had. You are not any of that. Who you are is someone who is wholly worthy and wholly lovable, as distinct from every experience you've had and everything you've ever done or failed to do. That is not who you are. And I think when we can reset our relationship with ourselves as wholly worthy and wholly lovable, totally independent of what we've done or failed to do, also independent of our success. You won an Oscar. Okay, that's not who you are either. You are not your body. You are not your beauty, because your beauty is going to change too. So does that mean your self-esteem goes down? So no, who you are is distinct from all of those tangible external factors and those experiences. And when we can, really reset our relationship with ourselves at that deepest level, I think it is profoundly liberating. Because if I am not my successes and I'm also not my failures, then actually it liberates me to pursue whatever it is that makes me feel most alive in my life, and to change and step away from the things that suck me down and play me small and keep me from living into my potential and what I'm called to do. Then, man, that is just so liberating. And when we can make peace with our unfinished selves and extend grace into all those parts of ourselves that we struggle with, it just enables us to have a wholly different experience of our own lives.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I love that you included that it's not our successes either, because then we get into the habit of outsourcing our self-esteem and our self-worth and all of that towards what we accomplish. So it's neither side of the coin.
No. It's interesting. I've worked with a lot of people, that I think it's fair to describe as insecure overachievers. I think it's fair to say I've experienced that. I have to wrestle with that myself. We all still have insecurities. I don't think they ever fully go away. And people who identify themselves with their title or with the accolades that they get, like that holds you captive to that. Like you've got to keep getting more accolades. You've got to be still on the red carpet, and you're captive to all of that. Well, that keeps you from really experiencing your true freedom as well. So enjoy that. It's wonderful. Celebrate it. Awesome. Be grateful for it. Share that. But don't have that be your identity, because we are then still a prisoner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is work that I'm doing in therapy right now. So what is my identity? Because I've never thought about it. And I do identify with, my career and what I accomplish and
you're human.
Things. Yeah,
you're human.
But I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know. So it's something that I'm unpacking right now, and It is very empowering, though.
Yeah. Well, they say humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking about yourself less. And it's why I think, to live lives that are really, truly rewarding, and it's not about us. I mean, it starts with us. We got to do our work, but it's not about us. It's about how do you use your beautiful gifts and your platform and your hard-won, hard-come-by wisdom to serve others and elevate others and help others live lives that honor their gifts and their hard-won wisdom and help them grow that wisdom. And I think the more we can get out of our own way, Meg, it's not about me. It's like, how do I use what I've got to help others? Honestly, I think that is the most beautiful and powerful place to live from.
Yeah. I think a lot of people could probably relate to this, but it's another recovery thing. And it's that I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And that kind of sums it up, right? We have all of these insecurities and all this stuff, but we're so, focused on it. So
most people are just thinking about themselves.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a good point, right? For people who are afraid of judgment and what are people going to think. And this is feedback that I get from my audience all the time about, I want to leave my career. I want to leave my relationship. Everyone's pressuring me to have kids, but I don't want kids. But what are people going to think? And it's like, they're going to think about you for 5 seconds and then go back to thinking about themselves.
Think? Yeah. Never let what other people think matter more than what you think. Yeah. Otherwise, you're to your point, you're basically handing over the power of your life to everybody else's opinion. And who cares? They think what they think.
Yeah, exactly.